Point After Podcast with your host, Julien Barnett.
Fantasy people, welcome into the Point After Podcast. I'm your host, Julien Barnett, and today I'm joined by none other than other True North podcast member, Dbrown. How you doing, man?
What's up, Jules, man? Glad to be here, brother.
I am glad to have you on, man. And as always, we are coming to you live from the True North Podcast Network. What are we up to here today, Dbrown? What do you What do you think we're going to get into?
Man, we're gonna talk about some trends that we might be looking at heading into the off season. Some trends we were looking at last off season and how those played out, and maybe a little bit of theory behind what we need to be looking at moving forward as far as spotting trends, dealing with opportunity moving forward.
Yeah, man, it is going to be a blast. I have done some deep diving this week. If you were following me on Twitter, you would have saw my thread that I put out, kind of breaking down two players we're going to talk about today. So I'm excited to get into that and kind of dive even deeper into that with you on here. But before we get into that, we have a couple big announcements that I wanted to touch on first. So the first thing that I want to tell everybody, if you could give the people a drum roll, Dbrown. Dbrown is coming on the Point After every second weekend as a co-host. I am pumped to have you on board, man. This is going to be a lot of fun. I love the work that you do. I love working with you on here. I love chatting with you. So I'm just super pumped to have you, man. Thanks for coming on board.
Yeah, Jules, the chemistry was off the charts from the rip. I think it was only inevitable that our forces joined up, pretty regularly to give the people what they want, and the pure entertainment of the TNF crew.
Yeah, we are a rowdy bunch up here. And you're an honorary Canadian in my book. So, and then the second thing that I got to get out here is super exciting because we have some new merch up on ViridianGlobal.com. We just got toques, hats, snapbacks, trucker caps, t-shirts are on there now, all different colors. I'm super pumped for this, and I want you to now take it away, Dbrown, and tell them about what you and Viridian Global have going on at Dynasty Sons.
Yeah, we actually got together with Viridian as well, and have released a SOD line through them, and we're actually doing a giveaway right now. So if you go check the pin tweet at Dynasty Sons right now, retweet it, make sure you're following. This Super Bowl Sunday, we're going to be selecting a winner for a free piece of gear. So make sure you stay tuned to that and get entered if you have not already.
Seriously, you don't want to miss out on that giveaway. Any day you can get something free is a good day. So that's the way I look at it. So obviously we're just out a week away from the Super Bowl, man. Tampa is hosting the Super Bowl. The first time a team that is playing in the Super Bowl is hosting it. So obviously, that's one thing that's huge going into this game. But secondly, we got a big storyline. This is Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady. Like, this could come down in the conversation of who's going to be the GOAT when all is said and done. If Mahomes can beat Brady in the Super Bowl this year, I think that goes a long way in his case if he's able to get a couple more Super Bowls down the road. So, who do you have winning in this one? And tell me why. We got a 56.5 over under. Chiefs are 3-point favorites.
I'm rolling with the Chiefs in this one. I believe in Mahomes. I believe in Andy Reid. And I, just like a lot of other people, I'm not a fan of Tom Brady. As much as I respect the man, what he's done and what he's doing with Tampa Bay. I'd rather see a Mahomes repeat over another Brady, basically coming out and proving that he is indeed the GOAT.
Yeah, I am in the same boat. My father-in-law is a huge Patriots fan and Brady diehard. So I just want to have this to to brag about for the next year. And I think it's hard to go against Pat Mahomes. He's one of the, if not the premier quarterback in the NFL right now. Not a whole lot of players that really play the position better than he does. And last time they played, I don't know if you guys have listened to the True North pod from earlier this week with JJ Zacharisa and Ty and Trav, but the three of them are talking about this offense is. Oh crap, guys! I'm losing my train of thought here. I got all nervous. I'd have to go back and listen to that. But sorry, guys, I completely lost my train of thought there. I don't know where I was going, Dbrown. But I wanted to jump into this too because some huge news dropped last week or earlier this week. Sorry, Matt Stafford traded to the LA Rams for 2 first-round picks, a third, and Jared Goff. Break this down for what this does for the Rams players, and then we'll get into the Lions quickly after.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw, a lot of reaction to this on Twitter. A lot of people kind of feeling like it was a bit of an overpay, but, it shows that the Rams are serious about winning now. They know that their window is now, and Stafford is indeed an upgrade at the position. Whether or not Goff is serviceable or not for Detroit, the main thing is they were able to get out from underneath that awful contract that they signed Goff to. And, now Detroit can worry about that. Yeah, they lost their what remaining future capital they had left, but I think for the Rams, if they are serious about winning now with the defense that they have now, I think it's a good move for them. So I like Stafford. I think it is a boost to the receiving weapons and Cam Akers there in LA. So, I'm kind of wheels up on that LA offense with Stafford throwing the ball. And as far as Detroit goes, it could be worse, I guess. Goff is a piece that we'll see what they end up doing with him as Detroit kind of does their rebuild structure, from the front office all the way down through the team. So, it's a big trade, the biggest trade thus far of the year. So, but I like it pretty much for all parties involved.
Yeah, I think most sides benefit. What I'm worried for Goff in terms of, he didn't really have a great O-line this year with LA, and we saw him struggle, statistically down in almost every major statistic this season. And we kind of saw the emergence of Cam Akers. They treated him more as a game manager. I think Matt Stafford is going to come in and actually sling the football, and that offense is going to be hard to stop because they have so many weapons. And so I'm really excited for the Rams offense. Detroit, I'm a little worried about. I think Swift is still going to get his, but I mean, we don't really even know what the receiver situation is going to look like there. Both Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay are free agents, and outside of that, don't have a whole lot of depth outside of Quintez Cephas and a couple other guys. So yeah, man, I'm a little nervous on the for Goff, but I love Matt Stafford there. I just got Robert Woods in the 6th round of a dynasty startup, and this was a day before this news dropped, so I am feeling confident, to say the least. All right, man. Well, let's get into some Super Bowl prop bets because I think these are always fun. I'm going to try and stay away from betting too much in the Super Bowl because I just want to enjoy the game, and I always get myself all flustered when I get in there. But I do want to just throw some of these down in case people are betting. And so, who do you think's got the first touchdown?
Yeah, no, I'm going with what you picked here, and that is Kelsey. He anytime touchdown king right there. So I think he's going to be the first, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's the last as well. Yeah,
I think that's very possible. I think Kelsey gets the first one, and I have Evans or Godwin as the last one, but I think it's on a this team's down by 2 scores. They drive down the field, score a touchdown, and they're doing an onside kick, trying to get back into this game. And so that's kind of why I lean that way.
I like that.
I got no statistics backing that up, Dbrown, but we're just going to roll with it. And then do you think a defense scores?
Sometimes, Jules, when it feels right, you just got to touch it.
You got that. You got that right, my man. And yeah, these defenses combined for 5 DST touchdowns this year, which is quite a lot, in terms of 2 teams. Do you think one of them scores here? Maybe a special teams touchdown?
I think that's going to kind of come down to this game is, we've seen both of these defenses at times stand up and make plays. Which one's capable of doing it in the Super Bowl may very well be the difference of the ball game.
Well, and I think it's going to be all the difference. Which one of these defenses is going to step up and stop one of these eventual all-time GOATs, right? I highly doubt that this game is going to be like 54-56 type of thing where we just got two gunslingers going out there and scoring the most points in Super Bowl history. Halftime is going to come. They'll make adjustments, and I'm just excited to watch it, man. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
It's not every day that you get a 6-time Super Bowl winner going against a guy who could, realistically, I think the only guy in the NFL right now who can challenge Brady to that GOAT status by the end of his career. So, yeah, man. So let's on that note, we're gonna dive into a couple more or less from Monkey Knife Fight. Actually, not more or less. We did those on our lip sync knife fight this weekend. So we're actually gonna do what's called rapid fire. So I'm just gonna pull this up here for you guys and show you guys kind of how this works. Give you a little rundown on Monkey Knife Fight. All right, here we go. So I'll give you a quick little intro video, and then we'll play this Monkey Knife Fight together.
If you want the best DFS player prop games in the industry, jump onto Monkey Knife Fight. Monkey Knife Fight is sweeping the nation right now, and we at True North are proud to be doing it along with them. They've got games for all sports and skill levels that are sure to keep you on the edge of your seat, with endless opportunity to watch your winnings pile up. With our promo code TNFF, Monkey Knife Fight will match your first deposit up to $50. So sign up now with our promo code and you can get up to $50 of free money to start making some bank. Again, that's monkeyknifefight.com, and the promo code is TNFF at your first deposit to start playing today.
Yo, up to Trav with that sexy audio.
I know, man.
My
Every
God.
single time,
Trav.
it's like
Trav, you're in the wrong business, baby. You need to be doing something. You need to be wooing folks on that XM radio with your sweet talking jazz.
Hey, I know a guy. Trav, why don't you go and talk to Matt over at Sportsnet? Maybe he can hook you up. All right, guys. So let's dive into this here. These ones are a lot of fun because I find these super challenging. And it pays out 6 times. But what do you got here, Dbrown? So we have Tom Brady plus 30.5 yards on Patrick Mahomes. Where do you sit with those two?
It's tough. Neither team has really a proven run game that you feel great about. Both teams tend to lean more on the quarterback play, even if it's dinking and dunking to get down the field. So I think both teams are really going to come out and want to pass the ball regardless in this game. And I expect Mahomes and crew to get out in front, like we mentioned, and Tom Brady to come from behind. He may even have more passing yards at the end of the game, even with a loss to the Chiefs.
Yeah, that's where I lean too. I think he might have more. I really do. The lines are set at I think 2 or 329 for Mahomes and 299 for Brady. I'm hitting the over on both of those, but I think Brady could throw for 350 in this one. It's going to be that type of game. So let's go ahead and lock that one in here. What about this? This is really interesting because we got Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Tyreek has a 2.5 receiving yard cushion on Kelce. So, this is really interesting because as we know, Tyreek's that burner type. He gets those short little tap passes. He'll take them for 45 yards. So which way do you lean here? I think where I lean based off of my Travis Kelce MVP call on the Saturday Monkey Knife Fight live stream. But what do you say?
Yeah, I kind of actually like the Tyreek Hill side here. You start talking about yardage, and all of a sudden Tyreek's on my radar. We saw what he could do just this past game, and he absolutely lit it up. And all it took was that one twitch touch, and he was gone. So I actually like Tyreek Hill. I think he even has a decent matchup, versus what Travis Kelce will be facing in the middle of the field there with that stout Tampa Bay linebacking core and safety.
True, but I will say Murphy Bunty has been playing lights out lately, so we will see how he lines up if he shadows Tyreek at all. But I'll go with you on that one because, like I said, I think MVP honors go to Kelce due to the touchdowns, and 10 plus receptions, not necessarily, a huge yardage game. I think, I think Tyreek could go for 150. I think you got a great point there. So I'm cool with locking that in. And then this last one this is the real kicker. Mike Evans, 1.5 receptions above Chris Godwin. Basically, how many receptions do you predict for these guys?
I'll take Godwin as far as receptions go over Evans. If we're talking touchdowns, I'd be back towards Evans' side here, but I think Godwin's probably going to see a little bit more volume than Evans will see. Typically, Evans really only sees that high super volume when the likes of Godwin or somebody else is missing. I know AB's out, but I think Godwin's going to soak up majority of the targets in this offense for the Super Bowl. But so I'll take Godwin there.
Yeah, and Brady's kind of always featured that slot guy versus that outside guy in terms of targets, and Chris Godwin's just that type of player, so I lean that way as well. I actually think that one's the safest of the 3 bets on here to hit. So let's go ahead. We'll throw $5 on that, and hopefully we'll make some bank, as Trav likes to say.
Yeah,
there we go. All right, so now let's really get into the nitty gritty of what this episode is. So basically want to identify what an outlier is, and identify if this is an outlier season, and then be like if this is a true breakout season for this player and can be replicated. So for me, like, there's a couple things I look at every single off season that are key components to somebody breaking out, and those are always a change of scenery, free agency, coaching changes, injuries, coming back from an injury. Like, those types of things are all causes for positive regression that when you just kind of look at the end of year finish, you don't see those things show up. You just see an end of year number. So what do you look for when you're looking in terms of a breakout player?
Looking for a season to build off of, but more than anything, it's all about opportunity. The opportunity that's going to be available, whether free agency is hitting and some guys are heading out, the opportunity steps up. It's just that's the most vital thing. Vacated targets, chasing those vacated targets. Last year it was with the Falcons, and I know we'll talk about that, so I don't want to get too far into it. But that's one of the big things I'm looking for, is just an opportunity to step up, and being able to identify guys that are going to get that opportunity throughout this offseason before the next season rolls in. It's going to be crucial to getting good value on dynasty assets.
Most definitely, man. And I mean, you can kind of see it coming with some of these guys. There's obvious signs that point towards it. But you really highlighted it there for me it's vacancies, right? Target vacancies are huge. Those targets, they almost always repeat within, 30 to 40 targets in the same game plan, assuming they're in the same situation. And if players leave or whatnot, and it just opens up a space for these players to break out. So Ryan McDowell of DLF Fantasy Football, he does a fantastic job putting together a chart that shows every single team's vacancies, as well as position players leaving and their depth chart. And it's fantastic. It really helped me in terms of like seeing where targets were actually going and what was opening up. And so I just wanted to kind of plug that in there. And then, secondly, the big thing I look for is talent, right? Like I love, especially at like the receiver position, for example, like, is this player talented? Did they just not get enough opportunity? Were they, were they a rookie and just not on the field? Are they talented and their quarterback sucks? Like there's just so many things that factor into that. But for me, it's watching, right? Like, you really got to watch these players and study them. And if you can tell if someone's a talented player, and then the third thing is there a clear path for touches? Are they going into a spot where they're, like we talked about, vacancies, but what was their market share before? Like, what was their hog rate on their team in the years previous? Were they trying to get them the ball, or was there was it just a lack of other options on the team? So there's a lot of factors for me there. But before we dive into the breakouts, I want to actually take a look at the vacated targets from 2020, because I know you mentioned your Atlanta Falcons, and they had 258 vacated targets heading into 2020, which is an astonishingly large number. They between Sanu, Hooper, Devontae Freeman, like that's over 250 targets to go, and they didn't really bring anybody in the backfield, other than Todd Gurley, but he's even historically not a great pass catching back, and they didn't use him in that way at all. And then when we talk about Julio Jones this year, he was out for at least half of the season. So that for one spoke to Calvin Ridley's volume, but we could have seen this coming prior. Even if Julio played all 16 games or 17 games, Calvin Ridley still breaks out. And these metrics they're pretty crazy, because 2019 he had 93 targets, up in 2020 to 143. Yards per reception was up from 15.3 from 13.7. Total receptions, obviously a huge increase. Target share went up from 17% to 25.5% with all of this volume gone. And then red zone targets up to 22, and he had just 5 in 2019. So really just eye-opening numbers. And to me, what did we just talk about? Talent, opportunity. And he goes from the wide receiver 27 to wide receiver 5. So what I want to do on this episode is kind of take a look at some other players that could be in a similar position moving into 2020, and hopefully identify them for our listeners. So
yeah. Let me just add, Jules. I think a lot of the knock, as far as people not wanting to buy into the Calvin Ridley hype last year, was Julio Jones. How can Calvin Ridley emerge so long as Julio Jones is there? And I think it was just due to the fact of the passing volume in Atlanta, and like we said, the vacated targets. Even if Julio dominated, and saw his highest career looks, which is 200 targets, there was still going to be plenty enough for Ridley to eat. And I think that a lot of people just got scared off of Julio being the true dominant wide receiver 1, and nobody knew that Julio was going to miss the time that he did, which allowed Ridley to probably even prevail even further than we originally thought. But I think it was naive to think that Ridley could not succeed and be a top 12, much less top 16 wide receiver year in and year out in this Atlanta passing attack.
Well, and I mean, historically, even in Atlanta, we've seen multiple wide receiver 1s in that offense at the same time. And you look at other parts of the other teams in the NFL, you see teams that produce lots of wide receiver 1s. The Rams did it a couple of years ago. This year, the Vikings were on pace for that for a good chunk of the year until Adam Thielen slipped out of that spot. There's a lot of teams that are able to produce 2 elite wide receivers, especially when they don't have a run game, right? The Falcons are one of the heaviest pass-heavy teams in the league, even over the past 5 years. So it just makes sense. You don't do a whole lot in terms of personnel changes. You bring in a couple different OCs, but this offense runs through the pass game, and it's always run through Julio, and now it's being transferred over to running through Ridley. But I did want to point out, Calvin Ridley in weeks 1 and 2 blew up for 60 plus PPR points. He had 4 touchdowns, 200 yards in that span, and was lights out with Julio in the lineup. So to me, I just see that as Julio being out of the lineup actually hurts Ridley, because it only makes there be one person to cover on this offense. And that's when we see guys like Olamide, Zacchaeus, and Russell Gage, and even Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst had 90 targets this year, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. I mean, if I told you Hayden Hurst was going to have 90 targets in 2020 and barely be a top 12 wide receiver or tight end, would you believe that, right?
But what I love is that when Julio was out and really did have to step up and be the one for Matt Ryan, he came through, and it was with the other likes of Gage and OZ on the field with him. So, when he was asked to step up and be the one, lots of folks say, Ridley will never be a true one. Well, when they asked him to, he did. And I think he's capable of it moving forward. And, like you said, I don't mind having Julio out there. Julio deserves respect, so they give him respect, and that just opens up plenty for Ridley to eat underneath. So big fan of Ridley moving forward.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. I've got some of his weeks on here without Julio, and still had some blow up weeks, right? Like you said, 5 receptions on 13 targets, about 110 yards. And then in week 5, when Julio was out again, he had 8 receptions on 10 targets, 136 yards. And, that's just a safe floor if we're talking in terms of PPR. He didn't even score, and he was still a back end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2 those weeks. So, I just love that. I love that for Ridley. And moving forward, I'm sad that I don't have any Ridley shares because I didn't do this much research last year. But let's dive into our second most vacated team, because there was 190 targets for the Dallas Cowboys coming into 2020. Between Randall Cobb, Jason Witten, we saw pretty much all of Jason Witten's 90 targets get taken by Dalton Schultz and Blake Jarwin when they were on the field. But the 100 targets between Randall Cobb actually just got it all went to CeeDee Lamb. We kind of expected Gallup to step up and take those more of those targets. That's why a lot of people were projecting that Michael Gallup breakout, but it was actually CeeDee Lamb. So, what I think is interesting here is when we look at these players in terms of BMI and what they can offer to their team, there's really only room for like one of these players to break out. We already know that Amari Cooper is an elite wide receiver in the NFL. So if we're looking in terms of, who's going to be the number 2, what do you really look for here? Like take CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup, for example, put yourself back in the draft of 2019 and who you thought was going to be the guy.
I was a big Gallup advocate this past offseason before the NFL draft, before the pick of CeeDee Lamb. Don't fault the Cowboys at all. I think it was a great pick, best player, they had to choose from, and unfortunately it did kind of put a damper on Gallup's outlook. But more than anything, I think it was the loss of Dak Prescott. I think that Gallup could have been more relevant than he was along with CeeDee Lamb. I think Schultz probably would have been a little bit less relevant had Dak Prescott been under center for 16 games. And, I hope that Dak ends up getting to stay in Dallas. I hope that Jerry, cuts him a big old check, because I want to continue to see Dak Prescott, chucking it to those wide receivers. And with all 3 of those guys, I don't care who the tight end is. It doesn't matter. He's gonna chuck for 350 plus and 4 touchdowns. And let's not forget they still got Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield taking the pressure off.
Yeah. Well, and what's crazy too is Dallas actually threw the ball 38 more times in 2020 than they did in 2019 with Andy Dalton, right? So I think that's actually a testament to CeeDee Lamb and like what he offers to this offense, because clearly they were more confident in throwing the ball with Andy Dalton, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper than they were giving the ball to Zeke, right? This was kind of a down year for him. And I just think that that's really crazy, because he saw 111 targets this year where, there wasn't really 111 targets to give him. And they basically forced him into that offense because they needed him to produce. So I love it. I'm like you said, I'm all about Dak. I think with this offense, with this team, he is going to be an elite quarterback, and for years to come too. Really, like he's one of those players too. I always think it's really interesting when you see like quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks in the 4th, 5th round, who just kind of slip in drafts and then are able to come out and like, I wouldn't say that when Dak came into the league, he didn't do anything really elite. He was a competent quarterback. He could do everything pretty good and kind of get by. And his rookie year obviously wasn't great, but he's continually gotten better. And I just, I appreciate players like that. So I'm rooting for the guy, and I hope he comes back healthy. And yes, Smokey, yes, pay that man. There you go. Stop paying your running backs. Pay your quarterback, for fuck's sakes. All right. And the last team. So this is where shit gets really interesting, man, because the Jets were actually the 3rd most vacated target team heading into 2020. And this is nuts. They didn't have a single player finish in the top 30 at any position. Think about that. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold finished as the QB 30, but outside of that, Frank Gore was the RB 47. Jamison Crowder was the wide receiver 49. He was on pace as a wide receiver 2, but he missed almost half the season injury. This team just could not get anything going. And I just, what's really crazy is they actually threw the ball less this year than they did last year. And they had 492 total targets in 2019. This year, they just had 464, which is the 3rd lowest in the NFL, but they also ranked 21st in rushing attempts, which just speaks to how terrible their offense is. They were never on the field. And so, this is where, we looked at Denzel Mims as a player with talent. He's going to a position with opportunity. People thought, boots up, he's going to skyrocket, right? But this is where other variables come into play. There's bad coaching. There's not a great offensive line. Like, there's a lot of things that come into that come into play here as the reasons that this team wasn't able to break out. So now we look at it going into 2020. Is this a breakout opportunity team, right? We got a coaching change. We have new regime coming in. Obviously, they're down in targets from the year they were before. Guys like Rashad Perriman soaked up a bunch of targets. Braxton Berrios, sorry, Willie, I know you love him, but these were the guys that were getting the majority of the targets in that offense, especially because Denzel Mims wasn't on the field. What do you make of this? Are you buying Denzel Mims? Do you think they bring in, maybe they make a move for Deshaun Watson, or you think they draft somebody at the number 2? Give me your thoughts here.
I don't really see them making a move to bring a veteran in. If anything, I think they'll try to look to, build around Darnold, or if they get a guy in the draft, they'll look to move Darnold. Either way, I think opportunity is all around this team. Finally getting rid of the biggest problem with Adam Gase. I think it is kind of wheels up for some of the Jets players. This is a huge offseason for them, seeing who emerges. But now's a good time to go buy the likes of a Denzel Mims, or even my long lost friend Chris Herndon. We saw him start to pick up production at the end of the year. I believe my guy is coming back. I still believe in the 2021 season. I don't care who they got throwing the ball. I think now's a good time to I'll even buy Darnold right now. Any Jets player, pretty much their value has been low, due to Adam Gase and due to the poor offense over the last couple of years. I think all of them are at a good opportunity in their careers to, kind of spike in value in this season.
Well, ultimately, man, it can't get any worse. Like, it literally can't get worse. And people who have Jets players on their teams they're sitting there chapped about it. Like, if you had a Jets player on your roster this year, like, you never started them. And if you did, you always felt bad about it, and it sucked. So now you're in the offseason of 2021 and someone sends you a back end second round pick for Denzel Mims. If you're not, in tune with Dynasty, probably going to take that deal. And, if you're listening to this podcast, go make that trade, go send that offer out, because, this is a player who he does have top 24, upside in terms of what he offers as a prospect. Big body receiver. He can go up and make a play. Receivers like that are quarterbacks' best friends. And if you get an offensive line in front of Sam Darnold or whoever's back there, and a new head coaching regime, like I said, it can't get worse. So I'm wheels up as well on Jets players. I think that going into 2021, these could be buy low candidates that are going to blow up. All right. So now to get into our potential breakouts. So, the front runners for me for the biggest breakouts in 2021 are Philly, Jacksonville, and San Francisco. These were all offenses that were, pretty down in terms of their offense and what you kind of expected from them. And I think that they're all kind of on the way back up. San Francisco has riddled by injuries this year, especially on the defensive side. But, Debo was out for a good chunk of the year. Brandon Ayuk, obviously George Kittle, and then dealing with, the rotating quarterback situation that was Jimmy Garoppolo, CJ Beathard, and Nick Mullins. To me, it's like, go buy Debo, go buy Ayuk, because, again, I don't think this offense can really go backwards. What do you think out of those three? Who are you most excited about?
As of right now, Debo's kind of my buy. He seems to be the one that's kind of getting a little bit left behind as far as ADP goes. I'm pretty sure majority of consensus are on Ayuk over Debo at this point. And, I'm still a Debo guy. I love what the guy's capable of doing with the ball in his hands. And, I think he battled injuries this past year. And so people kind of got down on him. And it allowed Ayuk to kind of really shine and get a little bit more volume, Kittle being out a substantial amount of time as well. I think that we really just kind of saw the targets kind of really fluctuate depending on who was under center and who was healthy enough to be at the other end of receiving those targets in 2020. And I think there's definitely going to be some big potential for a target shakeup in 2021. I'm a big Kittle guy and Ayuk. I think that they can turn it around, but San Fran needs to figure out what they're going to do at at the quarterback position. I think Garoppolo's serviceable, but I don't think he's their guy. I'm hoping that they kind of enter in this quarterback carousel this offseason and shake it up, get them somebody that can do a little bit better under center.
Man, you know who I actually love to San Francisco? He's Mac Jones. Yeah, I think he'd be great in a Kyle Shanahan scheme. Super good game manager. He can throw guys open, like get Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle the ball in space, and the rest is history. That's basically what they did in Alabama with Devontae Smith, and they were able to just kind of get him in space along with some other guys, and I think that Mac Jones would be a great fit there, and could sit a year too behind Jimmy G while they finish paying off that massive contract, and then I think they can cut him in 2022 for like 12 million cap or something like that. So I would certainly be about that if I was a San Francisco 49ers fan. But man, so here's where I really wanted to dive into this. So I was diving into Jacksonville. We talked about vacated targets. Now they have 250 vacated targets going into 2021. Tyler Eifert, Chris Conley, D.D. Westbrook, and Keelan Cole are all free agents. One of those guys obviously could resign, but even so, I mean, none of them are huge target hogs or anything like that. So I think there's easily 200 targets up in the air here. And, even if we split that in half and then give 50 to each player, their target share goes up like crazy. So I'm going to pull up a chart that I made this week, guys, that basically highlights Calvin Ridley's 2019 season and DJ Chark's 2020 season and the comparisons between the two and what we can look for in 2021. So give me 1 second here.
All right. Enhance.
So games played. This is, what was that, Dbrown?
Enhance.
There you go. There you go. I'm gonna put the enhance on. When I go back, I'll edit it, and then I'll make sure that I do like a nice fade in. So here we go, guys. We got 13 games for both of them, coincidentally. Look at the reception total targets though: 94, 93, 53 to 63. Team total target vacancies, we just talked about 250 to 258.
Jesus Christ, Jules. It looks like you just copy and pasted the same chart over on the other side. These look identical to each other. You're telling me these are that similar? Seriously,
Dbrown, get it. So the point I'm trying to make here, guys, is I think DJ Chark is the next Calvin Ridley. But what's really interesting is Laviska Shenault also fits the profile. So we talked about it earlier, how it's super difficult and we never predict that two guys are going to break out. But I think that both of these guys, with the addition of Trevor Lawrence on this offense, can break out. So I was digging into it. DJ Chark, physical specimen, 6'3", 200 pounds, runs a 4.34, which is in the 90th percentile of wide receivers. Just, absurd athlete, crazy burst score in the top 90 percentile as well, 93rd for speed score. And what's really interesting too is Viska actually falls under that same kind of profile. He saw 79 targets in 2020, 58 receptions, 76 total touches. But even if you include his total touches and rushes, he had 97 total opportunities. So I gave him an extra 45 touches between rushing and receiving yards. I added all of that up, and that essentially gives him an additional 430 receiving yards, 40 receptions, and 3.5 touchdowns next season. Which, if you compile all of that onto his current this year's statistical metrics, that would actually put him at the wide receiver 9, 1 point behind Allen Robinson. So, like we said, big opportunity, 250 targets gone here. There's not really a true alpha, and I don't think that they bring anybody else in. I mean, why would they? They have who are both you have other giant glaring needs on your team. Fix the other issues. Don't worry about the playmakers. Go get some auxiliary pieces like a Keelan Cole, or maybe a Marvin Jones Jr. Wink, wink. But yeah, man. So yeah, I mean, if you want to get a little bit more information on this, go check out the thread on Twitter, because I break down all of the numbers specifically, and I show you all the equations and everything like that. Basically, I just use yards per reception and true catch percentage, and then I times those by each other, and put it into a big algorithm and pulled that out. So I'm here to tell you guys that DJ Chark is going to be, there we go, right there. DJ Chark's going to be top 15 wide receiver in 2020. Laviska Chenault's a top 20. I'm calling it right now.
Yeah, no,
on
I
the
love
point
that.
after live. I hope this doesn't come back to bite me in the butt.
No, I love that call. I'm a big Visca buyer right now, and DJ Chark. I don't have to buy him because I bought him so heavy last year and was slick disappointed. But disappointed just the right amount in order to get Trevor Lawrence to bring me back up in 2021.
There you go. There you go. I love it because I was all about Chark going into 2020 as well, and he let me down severely. Obviously I lost a few leagues this year because I was relying on DJ Chark as my wide receiver 2-3, expecting that breakout. But if I learned anything from that, it's that to not buy these players at their, don't buy them as a wide receiver 2 for my team. You can pay whatever you want to pay for them, but buy these guys that I expect to break out as 3, 4, 5 wide receivers, so that I'm not sitting on 3 points from DJ Chark with Gardner Minshew throwing him the football.
I'm a wide receiver hoarder. I don't care. I love wide receiver 4s and 5s and 6s.
Dude, I do
7s.
too. You ask anybody in any of my leagues, man. I don't know why I fucking hate the running back position.
Oh, dude, I want like 2 or 3 guys that I like, 2 or 3 guys that I shuffle, and then I don't want any other ones.
Hey, there we go. Oklahoma has a nice bold take there for you, Dbrown. What do you think of that?
Oh, dude, I'm a big Colin Johnson guy. I'm a big Tyler Johnson guy. I bought two other guys that I'm definitely buying. And I think Colin Johnson is going to be the reason why they don't re-sign any of those free agents that we mentioned earlier. Getting him on his rookie deal, continuing on, I think he's the perfect depth piece to go along with DJ Chark and Chenault.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. All right. Well, you know what, Dbrown? I think that pretty much wraps up our show for today. That's everything that I got. But before we go, I want to show you guys these wicked new all of this new stuff we got on Viridian Global, because I'm just super pumped about it. I can't wait to get myself some of these snapbacks and dad caps myself. So go check them out. ViridianGlobal.com. I'll pull them up here. Give you guys a
if you guys have a brand of your own that you're looking to establish and get you some gear, hit up Viridian Global. Nobody will make it easier. There's nobody in the business that's better to work with. These guys are 100% professional. The business plan is beautiful. It works. It's fair for both sides. And make sure that if you have dreams of having your own gear of your own kind, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. I don't care if you got a backyard football team, you're trying to get some jerseys hooked up or something. Hit up my guys at Viridian, and they will make it happen for you. I promise you.
Yeah, and it is wicked, man. Like I literally live in this thing. This guy, my toque, I wear everywhere I go because they're so comfy, and I just love them, man. And it's a cool feeling, let me tell you. Having your own product, your own brand, and then being able to support your friends and other podcasts. It's really awesome. I love what they're doing. There we go. I love what they're doing over at Viridian Global. And you guys should go check it out. So thanks for coming on the pod, Dbrown. Thank you everybody for joining us. I really appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to 2 weeks from now when I get to bring you back on again. And man, have a good one.
Fucking A, Jules.